Beneath the crashing waves and gray skies of northern Europe lies a world rarely seen. The North Sea, cold, vast, and ancient. A realm shaped by ice and time, where life endures in darkness, pressure, and cold. Here, in the depths of the abyss, survival is a daily battle. Creatures strange and silent glide through shadowed waters, each adapted to a world few dare to enter. This is a story of resilience, of evolution at its most extreme. Welcome to the depths of the North Sea, life in the cold abyss. You don't have to travel to distant tropics to witness nature's wonders. Extraordinary encounters take place in the most unexpected places. In quiet corners, in cold, hidden waters. Here, in the frigid depths of northern Europe, the North Sea and the Baltic come to life like never before. Vast, moody, and ancient, these waters hold stories of drama, survival, and silent spectacle. The North Sea stretches between the British Isles and the European mainland. It's a challenging environment, especially for those just beginning life's journey. In the Norwegian fjords, one of the sea's smallest predators begins its fragile life. This is Lysfjord, near Stavanger. It's home to a resilient little hunter found throughout the North Sea. The small spotted cat shark. Fully grown, it reaches about 1 meter in length and faces few natural predators, whether in the fjord's depths or close to shore. Each anchored to rocks and seaweed by long, coiled tendrils. Depending on water temperature, the embryos take anywhere from 5 to 11 months to mature. This newborn cat shark knows nothing of what lies ahead. But it enters the world in near-perfect conditions. Dense vegetation, abundant prey, and shelter. Of their early years, why one escapes a predator's jaws while others don't, remains a mystery, even to scientists. But sometimes, against all odds, life is granted a second chance. Cat sharks aren't confined to the fjords of Norway. They are also found further south, in the English Channel, the southern gateway to the North Sea, off the coast of northern France, near the cliffs of Normandy. Another population thrives. Here, anglerfish pose no threat, but survival remains uncertain. Beneath the waves, tiny, fragile lives also seek the same protection. One such creature had vanished from these shores, from France all the way to Denmark. The seahorse. This female is a pioneer, swept here as a larva by coastal currents. She was among the first to return to this stretch of the North Sea. But reclaiming these lost coasts will not be easy. Seahorses need seagrass, an underwater forest that shields them from the current and predators. Without it, they cannot survive. A successful return requires more than just one brave soul. For weeks, this female has searched for a mate, but her chances are slim. The few remaining seahorses live in isolated patches of seagrass, scattered too far apart for these poor swimmers to reach one another. Once, seagrass meadows stretched along vast sections of the coast. Then, decades of pollution and fungal disease took their toll. Now, the water is cleaner. The seagrass has a chance to recover. But just as hope begins to grow, a new threat arrives. An aggressive invader, Japanese wireweed, a fast-spreading seaweed that chokes out native species. The battle for survival continues, not only against predators, but against the shifting balance of the sea itself. At low tide, in these coastal shallows, a dense carpet of Japanese wireweed blankets the seafloor. This invasive species is spreading rapidly, smothering native marine plants, including the essential seagrass beds. In most places, the invasion spells trouble. But in a twist of irony, some seahorses are managing to benefit. The fast-growing wireweed has begun to link scattered patches of seagrass, creating corridors of habitat where once there was none. Now they are a pair, bound by instinct and timing, and if they succeed, their young may one day recolonize the coastlines of the North Sea. From the Netherlands to northern Germany, the wireweed is already there, waiting, perhaps in time. Seahorses will make a home there once again. The North Sea is vast. This female, like many others, has given birth just days ago. Her pup, a male, lies nestled beside her. She belongs to the harem of a dominant bull. Nearly a show of strength, marked by a triumphant roll, reaffirms his dominance. The females are watching, and only the strongest will earn the right to father their next generation. A few days later, the young pup takes his first plunge into the sea. Guided by his mother, his initiation, the pup cannot endure the sea for long. Though its pale coat provides excellent insulation on land, it lacks the waterproofing needed to withstand the cold. Only at around 4 weeks old will it shed this nail fur and develop the sleek, water-resistant pelt of an adult. He intervenes, his sheer bulk and authority impossible to ignore. This rival, though, is not easily driven off. The two are well matched, and the dominant bull must change tactics, leveraging his size and strength in a show of brute force. The female, now safe, observes his effort, a display of resolve to protect his harem. These battles often last until both bulls are near exhaustion, but a victory roll announces his claim. He is still king. Yet dominance is never secure. While challengers arrive, one at a time, he must face several each day, and it's beginning to wear him down. Ruler of the beach. For now, but his reign is nearing its end. Few beachmasters rule for more than 2 or 3 seasons. Meanwhile, the pup has finally found his mother. They are reunited, briefly. In just a few days, she will leave him for good, ready to mate once more with the dominant male. Perhaps one day, this young seal will grow strong enough to claim his own territory. But for now, he and his mother share their final moments together on the sand. To survive in the cold, nutrient-rich waters of the North Sea, giants must feast, and paradoxically, their survival depends not on large prey, but on the ocean's tiniest inhabitants. Each spring, microscopic life explodes in staggering abundance. So vast are these blooms of plankton and algae that they can be seen from space, painting the sea in swirling patterns, an abstract masterpiece created by invisible hands. As sunlight warms the surface, billions of microscopic algae multiply, forming the foundation of a complex food web. Hundreds of species, tiny crustaceans, jellyfish, and fish larvae gather to feed on this bounty. And where the plankton go, the giants follow. The basking shark, up to 12 meters long and weighing 5 tons, is the second largest fish on Earth. Yet, this marine colossus feeds exclusively on microscopic plankton. With its cavernous, meter-wide mouth agape, it filters up to 2,000. Scientists believe basking sharks rely on their acute sense of smell to track down these rich blooms across the vast open sea. And so, where there is one shark, there are often many, gathering in slow-motion ballet to feed. But their presence is fleeting. Once the plankton clouds disperse, the sharks vanish again into the blue. They are among the most mysterious residents of the North Sea, seldom seen and still largely unknown, except during these rare moments when giants rise to feast on the smallest life in the sea. Finding food in the vastness of the open sea is a daunting challenge, especially for larger predators. That's why many of the North Sea's most formidable hunters stay close to shore. Around the Shetland Islands is the gray seal. The towering fronds offer both camouflage and food. A female gray seal drifts between the rocks, finding refuge in the kelp's gentle sway. Unbeknownst to her, she's being watched. A common octopus, mostly nocturnal, emerges cautiously from its den. It's a curious observer, not a threat. The seal notices the intruder. She could easily make a meal of it. But her instincts suddenly clicks. A strange, rhythmic sound echoes through the water, one that stops any seal cold. Orcas. Using echolocation, they scan the depths for prey. It's not only their sheer size that makes them apex predators. It's their intelligence, coordination, and strategy. Now, they've set their sights on the female seal. Beneath the surface, a deadly game begins. For now, the narrow canyon offers the seal a lifeline. Its rocky walls too tight for the orcas to follow. But the pod is far from givenly to arrive. Together, they share the kill. Every member gets a portion. This is a family built on cooperation. This pod typically hunts herring off the coast of Iceland. But increasingly, they're returning to the Scottish Isles, drawn, it seems, by the abundant life within the kelp forests. Today, the seal was lucky, but others won't be. As long as orcas roam the North Sea, the hunt will go on. While giants patrol the open waters, smaller creatures live much closer to home. One creature thrives in the shifting world, the shore crab. This male is scavenging. A dead whelk carried in on the last high tide is a welcome find. To survive in the Wadden Sea, you must take advantage of every opportunity. A shrimp, a mussel, a scrap of decaying flesh. Nothing goes to waste. And it's not just crabs that feed here. Enter the nomads of the sky, migratory birds drawn to the bounty of the intertidal zone. They come and go with the seasons, just as the tide shapes the shore. Hundreds of thousands of migratory birds descend on the tidal flats, drawn by an abundance of food. Here, they refuel before continuing their long journey to distant breeding grounds. For the male shore crab, these birds pose no direct threat. But hidden among the flocks is his most dangerous predator. Eider ducks, mostly known for feeding on mussels and starfish, consider a crab a rare delicacy. For the crabs, what follows is a deadly game of hide and seek. If he doesn't find cover, he becomes easy prey. Once a crab is caught, the duck removes its legs and swallows the rest whole. This time, the male crab escapes. In the Wadden Sea, there's enough to go around. But what makes this habitat so astonishingly rich? The answer lies in the sky. The moon's gravitational pull drives the tides, drawing water in and out. Most must move with the tides or burrow deep enough to stay submerged. Shore crabs, however, have a unique adaptation. Though they breathe through gills, they can survive long periods out of water. Using their mouthparts, they generate a stream of air, keeping their gills oxygenated. It's now summer. The migratory birds have long since flown north to raise their young, and the male shore crab is seeking a mate. He doesn't have to look far. But crab courtship is no simple affair. Both are encased in armor. The male must flip his chosen partner and carefully align her beneath his own body. It's a maneuver that requires her cooperation. But just as things begin, she abruptly rejects him. Another male arrives. He too is drawn to her, but only one can stay. After a brief skirmish, the rival retreats. Soon after, the victorious male finds her again. This time, they pick up where they left off, wandering together across the exposed mudflats. They are bound by instinct and the rhythm of the tides. The mudflats of the North Sea form the largest tidal flat system on Earth. At first glance, they may seem barren and lifeless, but beneath this seemingly desolate surface lies a world teeming with life, feeding millions of migratory birds and sheltering countless fish and invertebrates. It's a habitat of extremes, of superlatives. The North Sea is a sea of striking contrasts, from the shadowed depths of ancient fjords to the vast sunlit plains of the Wadden Sea. Its inhabitants face ever-shifting tides, biting winds, and relentless exposure. Only the most resilient, whether vast or minute, can endure. This is a seascape of challenges, where survival is earned, not given. And when the wind sweeps across the flats, it seems to whisper your name. Beneath the crashing waves and shifting tides, the cold abyss of the North Sea holds its secrets. Ancient, enduring, alive. Here, life clings to rock and sand, shaped by pressure, darkness, and time. From the smallest plankton drifting with the currents to the great predators patrolling the depths, every creature plays its part in this intricate, unseen world. It is a realm of quiet resilience, where survival is not spectacle, but rhythm, continuity. And though the surface world may change, down here, the pulse of the sea beats on, steady, timeless, and deep. The North Sea's depths are not empty. They are waiting. A land where summer light lingers for days, never dimming, yet winter brings the absolute stillness of an endless night. Massive glaciers creep forward over centuries, shaping the rugged landscape, while bays shimmer under the sunlight, reflecting the unforgiving journey of survival. Once a realm of eternal ice and bone-chilling winds, Alaska is now changing. The glaciers are retreating, the ground is sinking, and the seawater is warming. Every creature must adapt or face extinction. Species that have endured for thousands of years are now forced to embark on an uncertain and perilous journey. Alaska, home to the toughest, the strongest, the fiercest, the largest, the smartest, and those that undertake the longest migrations. Yet even they now struggle, battling for every breath, fighting for every moment of survival. The resilient and the adaptable will endure. Those who cannot will vanish, becoming echoes of the past, buried beneath the melting ice. Welcome to Alaska, a land where survival is the ultimate test. Each decade, Alaska's sea ice area has shrunk by an average of 13%. In the summer of 2023, sea ice levels reached their lowest point in recorded history, according to NOAA, a stark warning of the rapidly changing Arctic ecosystem. Once a safe haven and hunting ground for polar bears and seals, the shrinking ice forces these animals to migrate farther, swim longer, and face dwindling food supplies. Further north, what was once considered stable land is now collapsing. In Utqiagvik, temperatures have risen by approximately 4 degrees Fahrenheit compared to the average of the previous decade, according to the Alaska Climate Research Center. As permafrost melts, deep pits form in the ground, turning once solid terrain into unpredictable sinkholes. Caribou and musk oxen, which depend on the vast tundra, now struggle as their habitat diminishes, disrupting the delicate balance of the Arctic ecosystem. Beneath the ocean, another crisis unfolds. Warmer seawater is altering the habitats of fish and invertebrates, adding new challenges to an already fragile food chain. Survival in Alaska is no longer just about hunting and escaping predators. It has become an unending battle of adaptation. Species must adjust or face extinction as the pressures of climate change intensify, fueled not just by natural forces, but also by human activity. Alaska is home to more than 1,000 vertebrate species, over 30 marine mammal species, and more than 500 bird species, including migratory and seabirds. Together, they contribute to the vibrant ecosystem woven through the mountains, ice, and waterways. But in the northernmost reaches of Alaska, the story is changing. The Arctic and subarctic regions, where breathtaking natural beauty meets extreme conditions, are under threat. In winter, temperatures regularly plunge below -40 degrees Fahrenheit, creating a cold, silent world. Here, the Chukchi and Beaufort Seas surround icy plains where sea ice once stretched for thousands of miles. Beneath this ice lies permafrost, a frozen foundation that has remained intact for millennia. Hardy plants such as moss, lichen, and low shrubs have adapted to these conditions, growing slowly through the long, harsh winters. Yet this fragile ecosystem now faces an alarming reality. In 2023, Arctic temperatures increased 4 times faster than the global average, accelerating the melting of sea ice and permafrost. Ancient natural structures are breaking down, reshaping the landscape, and threatening the survival of the wildlife that has called this place home for thousands of years. The polar bear, an iconic symbol of the Arctic, is struggling as its habitat and hunting grounds rapidly shrink. As the largest bear species and the world's biggest land carnivore, adult males can weigh up to 1,760 pounds. Though they live on land, polar bears rely heavily on sea ice for survival, classifying them as marine mammals. Their dependence on the Arctic marine ecosystem makes them particularly vulnerable to climate change. A 4-inch thick layer of blubber beneath their skin insulates them against extreme cold, while their black skin, hidden beneath their dense white fur, helps absorb the limited Arctic sunlight. Their large, webbed paws make them powerful swimmers, allowing them to navigate icy waters in search of prey. Currently, Alaska is the only place in the United States where polar bears can be found, with an estimated population of 4,000 to 7,000 individuals. Some inhabit areas near the Bering Land Bridge National Preserve and the Cape Krusenstern National Monument, where the last stretches of wild Arctic terrain provide a fragile sanctuary. Polar bears are master hunters of seals, particularly ringed and bearded seals. They rely on sea ice as a platform for hunting, patiently waiting near breathing holes where seals surface for air. When a seal appears, the bear strikes swiftly, using the seal's blubber as a critical energy source to sustain them through the harsh winters. However, Arctic sea ice is melting at an unprecedented rate. The summer of 2023 recorded the lowest ice levels in history, forcing polar bears to travel farther and swim longer in search of food, sometimes covering tens or even hundreds of miles across open water. Although they can swim continuously for over 60 miles to find sea ice or prey, prolonged journeys increase the risk of exhaustion, energy depletion, and malnutrition, further threatening their survival. As hunting on ice becomes increasingly difficult, polar bears are forced to adapt to less effective food sources, such as scavenging whale carcasses or preying on seabird eggs. Their extraordinary sense of smell allows them to detect whale remains from up to 20 miles away. However, these inconsistent food sources do not provide the high-calorie intake necessary to sustain their massive bodies, especially during winter when their energy demands peak. Scientists warn that within a few decades, some areas of the Arctic may become entirely ice-free during the summer. Without stable ice flows to hunt seals, polar bears face the looming threat of extinction. As their natural habitat deteriorates, many bears are moving farther inland, searching for alternative food sources, such as seabirds and small mammals. However, life on land is not a viable long-term solution. These food sources are insufficient to sustain them, increasing the risk of starvation. The proximity of polar bears to human settlements is also rising, leading to more frequent and potentially dangerous encounters. Hungry and desperate bears are more likely to scavenge near villages, increasing human-wildlife conflicts. According to NOAA, such encounters rose by 15% in 2023. Meanwhile, human activities including oil fishing, commercial fishing, and Arctic tourism continue to encroach on polar bear habitats, further cutting down their struggle for survival. Polar bears are facing an increasingly fragile future, caught between the vanishing ice and a world that is rapidly changing around them. The Bering, Chukchi, and Beaufort Seas in the Arctic region of Alaska are home to 4 species of seals that depend on sea ice for survival. bearded seals, ring seals, spotted seals, and ribbon seals. These species, collectively known as ice seals, play a vital role in the Arctic ecosystem and are an essential resource for Alaska's indigenous communities. Ice seals rely on sea ice for breeding, hunting, and shelter from predators, such as polar bears. However, the rapid decline of sea ice, especially during the summer, poses a significant threat to their survival. Not only are these seals losing their habitat, but they are also facing disruptions in the food chain. As ocean temperatures rise, small fish and krill, their primary food sources, are either migrating farther north or decreasing in number. In 2023, the Arctic cod population in the Bering Sea declined by 15%, significantly affecting the food supply for bearded and ring seals. With food becoming scarcer, these seals must hunt for longer periods and travel greater distances, increasing their energy expenditure while reducing their chances of maintaining good health and successful reproduction. This imbalance threatens the fragile Arctic ecosystem and deeply impacts ice-dependent species. The Pacific walrus is one of the largest marine mammals in the Arctic. Males can weigh up to 3,700 pounds, while females range between 1,800 and 2,200 pounds. Their thick layer of fat insulates them from the frigid waters, while their long tusks help them grip slippery ice and dig for food on the ocean floor. Though walruses cannot see their prey beneath the thick mud, their highly sensitive whiskers help them detect and uncover clams, mussels, and other mollusks. Every dive is a race against time, as walruses maximize each second to search for food in the icy depths. Beyond hunting, Pacific walruses rely on floating ice floes for rest between feeding trips and for breeding. These stable ice platforms serve as safe havens where walruses give birth and raise their young, providing protection and a place where calves learn essential survival skills. However, as summer ice melts, walruses are forced to migrate toward the coastlines of Alaska and Russia. There, they rest and forage, though these coastal areas lack the stability of sea ice. When winter arrives and the ice thickens again, walruses return to their frozen habitat. Climate change is rapidly altering this cycle, making survival increasingly difficult. The thinning and shortening duration of sea ice severely impact the distribution and feeding patterns of Pacific walruses. As their icy resting platforms disappear, they are forced to spend more time on coastal sandbanks in Alaska and Russia. In these areas, their feeding trips are limited to nearby coastal waters, reducing their access to the rich food sources on the ocean floor. In addition to habitat loss, walruses face increasing threats from predators such as orcas and polar bears, which take advantage of their weakened state. Meanwhile, the Arctic landscape itself is changing. Permafrost, the permanently frozen ground that defines much of Alaska, is thawing at an alarming rate due to climate change. This not only alters the terrain, but also has significant consequences for the tundra ecosystem. In 2023, studies recorded a substantial loss of vegetation, diminishing vital food sources for herbivores such as caribou.